right, welcome to another episode of Men and Marriage. In today's episode, I have a good friend of mine, Bret Fitchpatric. He is a 5-year veteran in the marriage game. He is also a VP of IT for a global company. Welcome.
Oh, what's up, man?
How you
Appreciate you
doing?
having me, brother.
No, I
I'm
appreciate
good,
you for
man.
coming on.
I'm blessed. I tell people I'm better than I deserve to be, man.
Man, aren't we all? Especially where we came from.
Man.
Yeah, yeah. So, as always, I have 3 questions to start it off. And after we answer those 3 questions, then we'll open it up for open dialogue. You can ask me some questions, or you can just continue to have the conversation on the previous questions that we already answered.
Okay. All right.
All right. Cool. So, before we get started, is there anything that you would like to share? I know I just gave a quick high level intro of you.
Yeah, man. I am a 5-year vet in the game, like you said. This is my second time around. This is my second marriage. So I've been married twice. And that gives me a little bit different perspective on, like a man's role in marriage, a woman's role in marriage, or at least from my perspective, like what I think those things are. And what I'm working on what makes a successful marriage. Hopefully that's what I'm doing right now. But I also know that some of the pitfalls that people run into, even when, it's not something like infidelity or something like that when people split up. So yeah, man, it gives me a little bit different perspective. I got 2 kids. One is college age, she's 19, and then I have a 6-year-old son. My 19-year-old daughter is my stepdaughter. I've been in her life since she was 13, so kind of those formative years, as they say. And then I got a dog. I feel like I tell people all the time, man, I'm living a dream. Like when I was a kid, I used to always dream about having 2 children, a boy and a girl. I did want the boy to be older than the girl back in the day, though, and a dog. Gotta have a dog.
I mean, all you need is a picket fence now.
That's right. It ain't a picket fence, but we do have a fence around the front of the front yard, though.
All right, cool. So, again, I appreciate you for coming on. We'll go ahead and just jump into these questions. Again, it's the same 3 questions that I asked everybody. I have some people cutting my grass right now, so if we get a little loud, that's the reason why. But question number 1, in your opinion, what is a role? I'm sorry. What is a man's role in the marriage?
Man, that's a big question, man. When you sent it to me, I was like, damn, that's a lot. Well, first, before I give you my answer, is London gonna see this? Like, how censored do I need to make
No,
myself?
it's open rain.
Okay, all right, cool. I just want to make sure. But yeah, it's a big question, and I think, you know, stereotypically, the man's role is like we were joking before we jumped on, the opening the pickle jar and sometimes cutting the grass, or maybe it's taking out the garbage, watching football on Sundays during the fall and the wintertime, stuff like that. Like, that's what people think day to day is what a man's role is. But generally, all jokes aside, um, generally by nature, I think men are protectors by nature and providers by nature. Um, but it's really about whatever your family needs from you, like whatever your wife, whatever your kids, whatever your family needs your role to be. That's what it has to be. You know what I'm saying? So, like, when I was growing up, my mom was a hustler. So I grew up in Nashville. I was born in Memphis. We moved here when I was a little kid, and my mom was working 2 jobs to move us to, out of the hood in Memphis to a better neighborhood in Nashville. And I had a stepdad at the time. My stepdad, same thing. He was working 2 jobs. He was, people might remember Bobby Jones Gospel back in the day before
Yeah.
it was on Gospel Explosion on BET. It was local in Nashville. And he played the keyboard for them back then. So money wasn't, like, he wasn't rolling in money. His role wasn't to be the provider, the breadwinner of the family back then. My mom cooked. They both kind of cleaned. They both kind of shared a lot of the responsibilities that are kind of like stereotypical man's job, woman's job. But then he got another job, started touring, and the money started coming in. And plus, it took him away from the house. So his role changed. It was, I'm going to provide for the family financially. My mom was still working, but she started to have to be kind of almost like a single mom for all intents and purposes. But then when he came back, stopped touring, his, just like any artist, his his money dropped, his income dropped, and my mom's was continuing to increase. She worked at the same place for like 40 something years. And so, as her money was going up and he wasn't touring anymore, then he started to become more of what you would call like a homemaker kind of person. You know what I'm saying? He picked me up from school, dropped me off, took me to practices, cooked, he cleaned and all that kind of stuff because he just wanted to contribute to the household. So I really think it's really all about what your family needs. Your role today may not be your role tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? And for us, like I said, I've done this twice. Both times my wife has made more money than me. So clearly my role isn't to be, the sole breadwinner of the house. You know what I'm saying? Like it's different. I would expect, like I got this Duke hoodie on because my wife went to Duke. I went to MTSU. You know what I'm saying? Like her student loans are not the same as my student loans. So I would expect that she makes more money than me. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think generally it changes. But I do think by nature, men are protectors and we're providers, even if it's not providing financially. Maybe it's providing peace. Maybe it's providing stability. So my wife is a little bit more free spirited than I am. I'm a little more structured. So for her, like my role for her and for our house is to provide consistency and structure. And her role is to make sure that I'm not too rigid and too structured. You know what I'm saying? To where we don't allow for different scenarios. Also, I do feel like I'm a protector, man. I got, I'm not still out here in these streets having gunfights or nothing, but you know what I'm saying? But I do want to protect I know I can't protect them against all threats, but I want to do my best.
Yeah, to the best of your ability.
Yeah. I took Krav Maga for about 2 months. I feel like I could, you know what I'm saying? And then I am a licensed gun owner, you know what I'm saying? So I do, I think most of that, like any good man, I think any man who feels like he's a protector, like I do think they feel some sort of responsibility to protect their household and their family, even if they know they can't protect them against all threats. So like when you go out of town, you go on a cruise or you go somewhere like Jamaica or something, the first thing you do is you look around to try to figure out like where's the exits, who are the killers in the room, all of that stuff. And that's certain things that I don't want my wife to even have to think about. I don't want my son and my daughter to have to think about that stuff.
No, those are good points. Those are all great points. And I think that you showed me or gave a different perspective from previous people I had on. And I agree with you that your role can change and probably will change over time. Just like once we get further to these questions, we talk about, your emotions, your love language, how you support each other, like all of that can change over time as well. So your role as a man absolutely can change over time. But growing up, you were taught to be, the man to open doors for your woman, make sure she's treated right, get her everything that she wants, this, that, and the other. And then also inside of a home, like you said, take out the trash so she don't have to, help her with the chores and all that stuff.
Yeah, cut the grass. You know what I'm saying? Like I have, but having said that, since you were talking about, somebody cutting the grass, like I tell my wife all the time, I don't mind her cutting the grass. She doesn't mind cutting the grass. She actually likes yard work, but I don't like her cutting the front yard. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to be judged by my neighbors. I got one of our brothers lives next door to me. You know what I'm saying? I got people driving by all the time. That's that fragile male ego, I guess, man. I don't want my neighbors judging me. I'd rather somebody else. I'd rather pay somebody else to cut the grass than have my wife out there cutting it. Even though I do have really bad allergies and it might give me an asthma attack. But that's something that came up in one of the other ones. We'll come back to that one. And one of the other questions I was thinking about, like, sometimes it's a give and a take.
Yeah, no, and you just basically segued into the second question when you was just talking about her not cutting the front grass because of your ego. So segue into the second question, and we can circle back to the first one. Second question is, do you believe a man's ego has to be stroked from time to time?
Bro, a male's ego needs to be stroked 100% of the time. I actually think, I cheated a little bit. I asked my wife some of these questions. You know what I'm saying? Just to see what she would say. And she said, everybody's ego needs to be stroked. You know what I'm saying? She was like, it ain't just, she was like, I don't know why men think that y'all got like a monopoly on ego. And I said, I know. Beyonce made the song Big Ego. She said she got one too. But she said everybody's ego needs to be stroked. I do think that if you care about somebody enough and you really, truly want things to work out with them, particularly once you get married, you have a responsibility to know what makes that person tick, what encourages them, what builds them up. and then what deflates them, you know what I'm saying, what pisses them off, like what buttons to push to piss them off, and stay away from those and try to build them up as much as possible. You know, like the world, especially as black men, the world isn't built in a way, especially in America, isn't built in a way that it's gonna build us up. You know what I'm saying? Like we have to do that ourselves. So the outside world is enough chaos. There are all these, you know, messages about how we're dangerous, we're thugs, we're not smart, we can't live in the corporate world, we can't build successful businesses. And so when you come home, you know, your wife, I think, should be that person, your biggest cheerleader, building you up. So, you know, when I was thinking about, like, I told my wife when I was thinking about, you know, should your ego be stroked? She's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I also think if you change some people may have a problem with saying, yeah, I want to stroke my man's ego, because it sounds like it's superficial. It sounds
Right.
like, oh man, I shouldn't have to do that. Like, you a man, you know what I'm saying? I shouldn't have to stroke your ego. But if you think about it in terms of building them up, you know what I'm saying? Like, not forget the ego part, but just pouring into them, like speaking life into that
Right.
person and building them up, then it sounds different. It feels different when people are saying, oh well, yeah, like, yeah, maybe I do need to maybe not cut the grass in the front, because it may, like, it's all, you know, I don't really care if she cuts the grass in the front because I hate cutting the grass. But you know, we joke about it, and if she was serious, she actually does come to me and ask if it's okay to cut the grass, because I've joked about it so much. She thinks it's like 50% joke, 50% real.
Yeah.
um and she'll come to me and she'll say, hey, do you mind, I'm about to cut the grass, you know, are you good? And I'm like, yeah, fine, whatever, go ahead, do your thing.
Like you just taking
um
too long to cut it. That's what it was.
it is, because that shit was like 6 inches high. You know, I'm a COVID survivor, man. That's my excuse. Like, we all had COVID in the house. I got allergies. I can't be out there cutting the grass, man.
No, but I appreciate your insight on that question also. So I think that it does. Both egos do need to be stroked from time to time. And I just got I posted a review on the Will book, and based on everybody know the Will slap now. And if you read his book, he has a huge ego, but the ego came from somewhere, and it was because he had people in his corner who poured life into him. So my last bit of my review, I basically said that he's searched his entire life looking for what his grandmother gave him, what his mother gave him, and what he finds in his children. But he cannot find that in, women that he's been married to or the woman he's been with. And basically what they have given him is pouring of life into him to give him purpose and meaning. And I think as a man, that's what we all need. And that's why I say ask that question about the ego, because from time to time the world beats you down so much, you're looking for
Yes.
somebody to help build you up a little bit.
And it's rare. Like, I remember when I was in my 20s, we used to make jokes about how we wouldn't give a woman too many compliments because we didn't want to blow her head up. You know what I'm saying? Like, so the other side of building up a man's ego is blowing up a woman's head. You know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't want to we didn't want to tell them they were too pretty. We didn't want to tell them they were too cool, they were too dope. Tell them a little bit, enough to let them know we was interested, but we weren't trying to blow their heads up, right?
Right.
But then when you get older, you realize, like, if you're interested in somebody, you care about them, particularly if they're your girl. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you really care about this person enough to get married to them, what are you running from? Like, what are you waiting on? Like, if you can't build up your man, you know what I'm saying, ladies, who's gonna be the one to build them up? Like, if you can't be the one to stroke his ego or whatever you want to call it, blow his head up, build him up, then who is going to be that person? And I think, when you were talking about that book, it made me think about, I tell some of my family, my younger family members, all the time, like, I do think at times the baby mentality of some men, I'm not gonna diss any of these rappers out here, because I ain't trying to fight any of them. I know you might go triple double platinum with this podcast and it ends up in the baby's inbox. But we on the man side of it, we have this baby culture going on, you know what I'm saying? And on the women's side, there's this boss bitch mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those two things, I don't think that they're a recipe for a good marriage. You know what I'm saying? Like, because if you're a boss, if you are in this boss bitch mentality, the way that I'm talking, like, you could be a boss. Like, my wife is a boss. Your wife is a boss. You know what I'm saying? um, you can have that, but still be able to pour into your man, because
Right.
they're both two solid women. They already
Mm-hmm.
know where their footing is. But if you don't know that and you feel like you got to tell everybody that you're a boss all the time, then you feel like you have to go a little bit further, and you
Right.
can't pour into a man because you think it diminishes you. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? And so I do think a part of that, part of all of that, what you were talking about is, I mean, the reason why it was hard for him probably to find a woman to do that is because of that same mentality. It's like, yeah, if I tell you that you're great, then it kind of diminishes me.
Right.
But it shouldn't. You know what
It
I'm saying?
shouldn't.
It
It
shouldn't.
definitely shouldn't. I think that also goes back to a little bit of um, the old culture and tradition of how we were raised. And I say we as a people, from the old time, like, you know what I'm saying, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, all the way up until now, like an evolution has changed. You know, women are in the workforce, like you said, they're getting money as more than men are, but there's a little bit lost in translation from, you know, being a, I want to say a homemaker to a wife. Like
Yeah.
you're not being taught how to be a wife or how to treat your man in today's time, more or less about just go get your money.
Right.
So, but men have from the very beginning have always been taught this is what you do to be a man.
Hmm.
Period. That hasn't changed, but the women's has changed over time a little bit. So I think that there's a little bit lost in translation. So therefore, like you mentioned, the if she blows your head up too much, then she thinks that she's like lesser than you, and that's not the case. Men don't think like that. You know, real men don't think that. Let me say that.
No, yeah, a good man is not gonna think, and he's not gonna weaponize that against you. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Like there are some dudes out here, and there was a time in my life, I can't even say dudes out here. Like there was a time in my life where I might be like, yeah, you want me more than I want you, so I don't have to try as
I'm
hard.
I'm guilty of that too.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But once you get to a place where you're a little bit more stable, particularly when you're married and you're like, you know what am I running from? You know what I'm saying? Like, who am I trying to impress at this
Right.
point? Like, I let me go ahead and pour into my woman, and she can pour it into me, and we don't have to have fear of at some point we're gonna weaponize that against each other or try to use that to manipulate each other. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
No, I
Yeah,
get
no
it. And
doubt.
one other thing that jumped in my head, and that I'm guilty of this for sure, about the ego is that from times as adults, men and women, we kind of think that the other person is good
Mm,
no matter what. Like for example, I can say when we had our daughter, you know, we both want to pour into the daughter and care for her needs because she's, you know, she was a child. She can't care for herself. So I know that it is very important and vital for the female to spend all of that bonding time with the woman, but I'm sitting in the corner like, well, what
mm,
about me? You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? So after, you know, time and time goes by, and then now I'm getting frustrated. So I bring that up to her, and now she's like, well, I thought you were good. Well, no, I'm not good because I still need to hear it from you.
Yeah, man, we might have an ego and we might look tough, but we need love. We need the, you know what I'm saying? We need all of that too. We need to be not just our ego, but just like us in general,
Right.
like our emotions stroke too. Yeah, 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 and I get it. I get it. I'm guilty of that too. Like my wife, I think sometimes when my wife is pretty emotional, but she also gets over stuff really fast. So I don't know the difference between something that might really hurt her feelings or really affect her and something that just might be something. I mean, she's an attorney, so sometimes we debate, and everybody knows me. I love to debate. So, you know, sometimes we just debate stuff that neither one of us even care about. And sometimes I might think that she's good, and I may not come back around after a debate like that and just make sure that she's good. And same for her. Like sometimes I'm the same way, like you. I tell her, hey, I'm still I'm still licking my wounds from what you did to me yesterday. Like you kind of destroyed me in that debate yesterday.
Yeah. Yeah. So any other things before we move on?
Nah, nah, man. I think we're good. I think at the end of it all, man, build your people up. If you love them, speak life into them.
Yeah, absolutely. So the third question, then we going into, do you think your spouse should be your peace? It kind of goes back to a little bit of what you said earlier about when you come home and that, you know, saying that you're not, you know, trying to impress anybody. You come home and you expect, you know, that relationship with your wife to be a certain way. So the question is particularly to that degree. Is, you know, when you come home, do you expect your wife to be your peace? And I can answer that question first.
Mhm.
So for me, if no matter what's going on outside of the house and in life that just beat me down or whatever, when I come home inside of my four walls that I pay for, I expect to have some level of peace. So if you had a bad day and I had a bad day and we both coming home and we just want to vent to each other, yeah, that's cool. But let's just enjoy each other first. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. Like, let me, you know what I'm saying, decompress everything because granted, I don't have it hard in my life, nor did I have it even harder than, my predecessors, my father, my grandfather, this, that, and the other. I'm doing well, but there's still some stuff that's going on in this world that kind of beats you up.
No doubt. It's an inside one right there. I already know one thing that's beating you down. But yeah, I agree. I do think that your spouse should be your piece to a certain degree. Like we are all responsible for our own well-being, our own happiness, and that sort of thing. So it can't be fully on your spouse to bring peace. However, you spend a lot of time with this person, and like you said, the outside world is filled with chaos. I mean, you go on Twitter, everybody's arguing. Like last night, the Titans drafted or traded AJ Brown. Twitter is arguing. Like everybody's mad at each other. You know what I'm saying? And that's just sports. Like forget about politics and social issues and the don't say gay bill and all these other things that are actually like real life things that people are arguing about. You turn on the news, everybody's arguing. Turn on sports talk radio, everybody. So like the world is chaos. Plus you have work that's stressful and you have to make these decisions and sometimes they're tough. I mean, so when you come home, I agree. And not to mention the fact that most of us are working from home right now. So there's no commute to decompress. Like you can't just get in the car for 45 minutes, an hour to commute home and throw on a podcast or something like that to decompress. Like you log off, you turn around and the kids might be right there. Or you turn around and your wife might be right there saying, hey, can you cut the grass? Or whatever, you know what I'm saying? We got light bulbs out all over the house. When are you going to change the light bulbs? But I do think, so when I was thinking about this, I was like, man, I agree. I think there is a certain level of ladies. I'm gonna talk to the ladies. Ladies, if you want your man to be happy, just give him some sort of quiet time. It don't matter if it's like y'all have to figure out what that looks like. You know what I'm saying? Like whatever, just come to some sort of agreement that peace for a man typically is everybody just leave me alone for a little while. Let me just clear my head, especially after a tough day. Let me just relax. Maybe that looks like binge watching something, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's different. For a woman, so for the men, for a woman, sometimes, at least for my woman, let me just speak for mine. For my woman, peace looks like checking stuff off her to-do list. So she cannot have peace if she has a laundry list of things to do.
I agree with that.
So when she comes to me and she's nagging me, it's not really nagging. Like she's not doing it to get on my nerves. She's doing it because she can't be settled. She can't have a good weekend or a good evening if she knows that she still has these 5 things to do before sundown. You know what I'm saying? And so I think her and I, we've talked about it a little bit, probably after, talking through some of this stuff with you on here. I think we'll probably have a little bit more conversation about like, what does peace look like and how can we give each other the space? When I log off, typically when I log off, I go pick my son up. She drops him off at school. I pick him up. So I usually have the time waiting in the car line where I can listen to some podcasts and just chill. But then it's game on after that. And I think that's enough for me. Most of the time, that's enough for me. Sometimes on Saturdays, I think we have come to an agreement too that Sundays are usually kind of our around the house work days. But I do think that, yeah, man, it's important to give each other peace and to realize, like you were talking about love languages, maybe it's something called peace languages where people like peace means something different to everybody. Because I can tell you, man, my wife is not going to be settled if she comes home to a dirty house or the grass is 6 inches high or there's light bulbs everywhere or something needs to be dropped off at the post office. She can't have peace. And her peace is the exact opposite of my peace. My peace is, let me just sit down, let me binge watch Force real quick, and then I got you. Let me just watch this one episode of Moon Knight, and then I got you.
Yeah, no, I 100% think that the peace comes from both sides, even though the question was geared towards your wife being the man's piece, but it definitely goes both sides. My saying for this podcast, Men in Marriage, is happy spouse, happy house. Mm-hmm. So if neither one of you are happy or one of you are happy and the other one is not, the house can't be happy. So both of you have to be happy and for the house to be happy. No, and that goes back to giving each other a little bit of space, making sure things are done, stroking each other's ego, all the above.
Yep.
So I agree with that.
All of it goes into it. And like I got one too. It's what is it? Happy, of course, happy wife, happy life. But it's happy husband, ain't no fussing, man. But you're right. Like you can't have peace, you know what I'm saying, in your house if the house is unsettled, if one person is upset and the other person is living their best life, you know what I'm saying? Like how would she feel if I was able to binge watch all of a show, you know what I'm saying, in one weekend, and her to-do list is a mile long and we ain't even knocked one thing off of it. And here comes Monday and she's still not settled. At some point, she's gonna get resentful. And then when she actually does say something to me, it may have gotten to a point where she just blows up about something small. You know what I'm saying? A cup being left on one table. Now she blows up about it. So I agree, man. I think you do have to be each other's peace. And I do think a woman's like I said, I'm giving some of the women a little bit of game, because I do think, once we realize that it's not that men don't want to be around women, it's not that men don't want to disengage from the family life or anything like that. It's just that the way that we're wired, we just sometimes need to just shut it down, recharge the batteries, and then we got you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100% agree. What was the saying that you just mentioned again? Happy husband.
Happy husband ain't no fussing. I got it from Gilly, man. Gilly the Kid. He said it on his podcast.
Happy husband ain't no fussing.
I think it was Gilly. Yeah. I think it was Gilly the Kid.
So cool. So we went through 3 questions kind of fairly quickly and some of them. So men's role in marriages, ego being stroked, and then peace, basically. So out of those 3 questions, anything that we want to revisit, or any additional questions or things that you want to bring up?
I got a good one for you. So it kind of goes back to the ego thing, but how would you feel if your wife told you said London ain't gonna watch this, right?
That's right.
How would you feel? And this is to all the dudes. So like in the comment section, y'all can answer in the comments too. How would you feel if your wife told you she was faking orgasms? And should she tell you if she is?
Initially, I would be upset because of the ego and the pride. Like, what you mean I'm not putting it down? You're like,
I've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, exactly. Like I got decades in this game right now. So it would hurt. Absolutely, it would hurt. But then we would have to have a conversation trying to understand, like, why? Why have you been doing it? Is it me? Is it me? Or is it you? Or is it something imbalancing, chemical, whatever, within the female's body? How can I get you to where you need to be? Because again, happy spouse, happy house. If I'm not putting it down for you, I don't know if you're happy or not. What else are you faking about? Man,
that's true. That's real. That's true. Yeah, I think everybody needs to be able to have a conversation with each other about some of that stuff. And it's tough. I don't want Nicole to ever fake an orgasm with me. More than that, let me work until I stroke out, and then tell me later on, because that's punishment enough. To be like, man, I'm sweating, I'm working hard. I promise I'm working hard.
Call a cramp and everything.
And then maybe we can have a conversation later about, like, all right, these are some of the things I like. These are some of the things I don't like, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like a funny story, without being too graphic, a funny story. Hope Nicole don't mind me sharing this story. For Valentine's Day, I went to Hustler Hollywood. Fill in the blanks with what you know what I'm saying, with what the gift was. I will say that I think we need some Black-owned businesses like Hustler Hollywood, because I don't think that they were made for people like us. I'm just gonna leave it at that. But it was whatever the gift that I got wasn't it for either one of us. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't it. And she was able, like, we were both able to have a conversation about, like, yeah, that ain't it, and move on. You know what I'm saying? And I would hope that she would want to do that. Now, maybe there's a time where I've been drinking too much and she's just like, bro, I'm tired. Let me just get him out of here. You know what I'm saying? But if it's something where she's having to do over and over again, then we need to have a conversation. Like, you ain't got to tell me you were faking them. Just tell me how to get you there.
Right.
I don't want to know that you faked any of them. Just tell me what I need to do. Just tell me what I need to do.
I guess what was the purpose of that conversation between DJ Envy and his wife? Like, why did that have to be put in a book? Like that was a personal behind the scenes type discussion they needed to have.
And they had it in real time. Like, bro. I definitely don't need everyone to know. And I don't want to learn with everybody else. Like, even if we got through it, that's fine. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, I used fake orgasm, then we did blah, 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 went to a sex therapist or something, and then we figured it out. Like, cool. Like, that's the story to tell. It ain't the story to tell to be like, yeah, surprise, baby.
Right. Like 10 years, all 10.
10, that's a long time. That's a long time.
Dude, just think, just how many times that you try to do it in a month? Times 12, times 10.
Times 10? That's a lot of work for nothing.
Yeah.
I think it's a microcosm of what happens with everybody's relationship. You know what I'm saying? Like, you think that you might be doing something right. You have no idea that you're stepping all over the other person's emotions, and they haven't told you. And, and they're just fuming. My wife and I always say that you can't hold something that someone's doing against them if you haven't told them what it was and given them an opportunity to fix it. You know what I'm saying? So, bro, like, faking the orgasm is.
He got 12 kids too. So
yes,
all of his kids are probably not. She wasn't happy with.
Yeah, that's rough. That's rough.
Yeah. I would not want to know initially. Tell me when we first dating, so that way, as we get engaged and get married, we can work on all that.
You work on all of it. I'm willing to go to I feel like you are too. Like, we're willing to work on stuff. That's all you can ask for. Like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes, man. If we need to go to therapy or, watch Pornhub, get a Pornhub subscription, like whatever we need to do. But man, you ain't got to fake it. Don't fake it with me. At least not consistently. Like, if you got to fake it one time, like I said, because I came home drunk, I've been on this tequila with the bros, then that's one thing. But yeah, don't fake it every time. Golly.
So then let me ask you this question. So flip that there. So we talk about women faking it, and I think women can fake it a whole lot easier than men can. But
no doubt. Have
you ever done it?
Yeah, not with my wife though. Not with my wife. I ain't never faked with my wife. But yeah, I have before. Because it's funny how, like, I was listening to, shout out to Brilliant Idiots. I was listening to Brilliant Idiots. If y'all ain't on Brilliant Idiots, man, it's hilarious. And they talk about a lot of that stuff. And they were one of the things they brought up was like, it's real easy for a woman to tell a man, maybe not easy, but it's more likely that a woman's gonna tell a man that he's trash in bed than a man to tell a woman. You know what I'm saying? Because I guess women feel like we're good. You know what I'm saying? You can tell a man that he ain't doing it right, and he'll rebound, he'll bounce back. But if you tell a woman that she's trash, bro, you got to be ready for, like, not to have sex for a while, probably. But yeah, I never said anything about it. You know what I'm saying? I never approached it. I was younger though, but I never approached it. I never was like, yeah, this is the reason why. Because I didn't want to even start peeling down that onion, man. Like, I didn't even want to go down, because it was so many reasons. One, because I was faded. That's probably the biggest reason. But two, we just weren't compatible in bed, man. Like, what she liked wasn't what I liked. And I'm a pleaser, so I'm trying to make sure she's good. Most of the time, men don't need much. We don't need as much as women to get us there. But that night, or a few nights, I needed it. I needed some extra.
So I have once, maybe twice before as well, but we never had that conversation either. There was no need to, because I knew that was a relationship that wasn't going nowhere. So what was the point?
Same. Yeah. Neither one of I ain't even need to damage her like that. Just let her go back out here in these streets and make sure, maybe she'll find some dude that likes what she was bringing to the table, man.
Yeah, exactly. Any other questions? Excuse me. Any other questions?
Yeah, that makes me think, like, have you heard of Blue Chew? I mean, you listen to
Blue Chew, like Viagra? Yeah.
So I had this conversation with my wife a long time ago. It's kind of the same. I guess this is the male version of faking an orgasm, is taking Blue Chew. So me and they will remain nameless, and other friends. Mm-hmm. There was a time when we were like, man, we're hearing it on every podcast. Let's just let's just see what it's all about. Let's see what the hype is about. So we all ordered this big ass pack of it and split it all up. And we all came back and was like, bro, it ain't like they're marketing it wrong. You know what I'm saying? They're marketing it as an ED drug. It ain't that. Like, it's like an enhancement. It's almost like Molly. And so we were at dinner one night. There was a bunch of us at dinner one night, and one of my friends was joking about, you know what I'm saying, and my wife was like, oh yeah, no, we don't need that in this house. She was like, man, if I ever caught him doing that, blah blah blah. I'm like, she found it. She did find him one time. But it's funny how, like, you know, we're not the only ones with a fragile ego, because then she started, I mean, she didn't go down the road of like asking a whole bunch of questions, but she was like, why do you think you need that? Like, do you need to get up for me or something? I was like, no, man, I'm straight. I was just curious more than anything, but you know.
Now I heard that it's definitely not just for ED. It's definitely just to keep you what you got. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes even after you know what I'm saying, you've done, you want to keep going.
Right.
Just keep the party going. You know what I'm saying?
Keep the party going. And it's like they're gonna owe you some money after this. It's also like you can control everything. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like I said, I've never taken X or Molly, but what people say, you know what I'm saying, about having sex on those drugs is similar. Like, it's a similar thing. You know what I'm saying? It's not really like it's legit an enhancement. It's not, you know, if you don't have ED problems or anything like that, like it's different. I don't take it no more. She made me swear off of it.
Oh, did she? Cold turkey. No, I've never heard. I've heard of people having, you know what I'm saying, taking Molly and X and all that stuff and going to do it. And they say that it's like what's the word I'm looking for? It's a heightened experience, I guess you could say. I don't know what that means. They just say you're very in tune to everything that's around you.
Yeah.
So I assume that's what it's.
Yeah, it's just like that. It's just like that.
Well, shoot, I mean, it sounds like a experiment waiting to happen around here. I don't know.
You never know if you don't experiment, right? Like, you know. Yeah, but it does come in a somewhat discreet package, but it has Bluetooth written on the outside of it.
Well, that's not discreet.
It's not discreet at all. It doesn't look like something, you know, like all of those packages now look the same. So, you know.
There's a lot of stuff out there right now. You got that Bluetooth, you got Roman.
You got Hims.
Of course, Viagra, Hims.
Yeah.
I wonder what is like specifically different between all of them anyway. Like, are they all coming from the same manufacturer, like Johnson & Johnson?
I think so. Because when you order it, the drug names are all the same on all of them. Yeah. But the brand name is different. So they're all the same, just different colors probably.
Gotcha. So reeling back in, talking about men and marriage. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed the conversation that we had going through all three questions, and even the later ones that you just mentioned. If you got time, I got one curveball.
All right.
Do you think that a man keeps the house and a woman keeps the man?
Man keeps the house, woman keeps the man.
You can take it, a couple of different ways there. So,
I think I do. I do think that everybody is responsible for their own happiness, and I do think there's an element of men keeping their woman happy, like we've been talking about this whole time. You know what I'm saying? I do think that a man, when most good men approach marriage, they're thinking about the whole house, and not to say women aren't, but they're thinking about the whole house. And before you even get into a marriage, like before I thought about marrying Nicole or even dating Nicole on that level, I was already thinking about what would family look like with this person. She admittedly wasn't thinking like that. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, she was like, dude is cool. I just want to keep him around. You know what I'm saying? Because he's cool. And whatever happens after that happens after that. So from that perspective, I know there's a whole bunch of ways you can take that question, but from that perspective, I do think it's true. Like, I do think the woman is typically, especially at the beginning, the woman is thinking, at least in my case, was thinking just about me. And I was like, I'm not even gonna go down that road if we can't make a house, if we can't make a home. out of this thing.
Do you think that was because that you had came out, you was already
Yes,
previously married?
no doubt.
Yeah.
And some of the disagreements we had, you know what I'm saying? Like my previous marriage, it didn't end in like infidelity or like I didn't leave her for Nicole or anything like that. It was like she her idea of marriage and family was vastly different than mine. You know what I'm saying? Um, she didn't necessarily want kids. She wasn't opposed to it, but she didn't want kids the way that I wanted kids. And I was like, I want I want children. Like I want to raise a family. And she was into it, but kind of not. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And I didn't want to. I mean, what do I look like dragging her into something that she's not that passionate about? Because then it'll be even problems down the road. It's better to just split up at the beginning and not have to involve kids and all that kind of stuff in it. And there were some other things too that I think that we just weren't jiving on. But yeah, I mean, I do think it changed my perspective. And when I came out of that relationship, I wasn't looking for one either. So that changes it too. Like I absolutely was not looking to get into, like I moved downtown into a loft. You know what I'm saying? That is not what somebody does when they're looking for another woman. I was trying to settle down every night. And then it just so happened, you know what I'm saying, that Nicole was just a friend. Like she was just around all the time. And then, you know what I'm saying, we started dating. So I was, before I went down that road with her, I was thinking like, is this what I want? Do I want, you know, and she had a kid too. She already had a kid. So, you know, if I was going to take it there with her, I had to be willing to think about all of it. And
Everything.
she didn't
Yeah.
have to think about it. She didn't have to really think about it that. She just had to make sure that I was good to be around her daughter. So she just had to think
So
about me.
the way that I came up with that question, this was this thinking just through random conversation with other men, is that like you just mentioned, the man thinks of the house in totality, uh, making sure that the grounds is taken care of, the house is taken care of, physical house is taken care of, but then also the interior physical bodies that's inside of the house,
No
me,
doubt.
the wife, the kids. And then when I say that a woman to keep a man, meaning that going back to I go outside of this house into the world, there is so much crazy temptations out there. Devil is always trying to take up, you know what I'm saying, trying to tear away marriages anyway. So a woman to try to keep her man by any means necessary is what I was, you know what I'm saying, was what I was getting at, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think so. I'm sure there are, you know, I think my wife would likely disagree with us, which is fine. She disagrees with me on most stuff. Um, because I think she feels like she I think she thinks about the house in totality like that, but also, you know, like I said, she's cutting the grass, she's fixing stuff around the house, she's fixing her own car. Like she's doing a lot of stuff that stereotypically and historically women aren't even interested in doing.
Right.
She just wants to do it because she didn't have, like, she's a single mom for a long time and didn't have a man that was around to do that kind of stuff. So I think her experience makes it a little different for her. But I agree, man. Like I do think about more than my wife, and that's how I want it. You know, going back to what you were talking about at the beginning about protection and, you know, protecting the household and that sort of thing. With that comes the burden of having to consider, you know, is this house safe? You know, like I'm all the entry points. Like, is it gonna crumble? You know,
Right.
did the contractors do a good job and all this other stuff? And that's not to say my wife doesn't think about those things, because she does too. But I don't want her to have the burden of it. I'll take on that burden as long as she makes sure that I'm good, which she does, and she takes care of the chillins. You know what I'm saying? The way she wants to, and all that stuff. Then we're good. You know, we team up on the kid stuff. But yeah, I agree. I think I do think about the house a little bit more in totality sometimes. I actually never even thought that it was a guy thing. I thought it was just a me and her thing.
No, I think it's a guy thing, in my opinion, anyway. But it's also, again, this is not a knock on women. It's just men talking to men about men stuff.
Yeah.
Not a knock on women on what they do and how they do it and everything that they think about and everything. So a little disclaimer there before I get some disgruntled people.
I'm telling you, you'll get the Facebook frenzy on you, man.
Yeah, more
Yeah,
than that.
I think, like, to sum up a lot of what I was saying, man, you know, I think I really do feel that men still embrace their you know, historical gender role in society. I do think that women are struggling with it, partially because there were so many single moms. In our generation, there was a lot of single moms, you know what I'm saying? And we didn't have fathers around to show, men how to be, like, what a man's role was in the house. A lot of us had to go outside the house to uncles and older brothers and mentors, teachers, stuff like that, coaches. And for women, they see their mom as a single mom doing everything, you know what I'm saying, doing it all. So I do think sometimes the stereotypical femininity in the role that women have played throughout generations and generations, I do think it's been diminished, sometimes by other women, but I do think it's diminished and undervalued because it's hard, man. Like, when we had COVID, we were all in this house together, and my wife had to be the one wrangling my son because they both had it and I didn't. And just seeing how, like, without my help, how hard it is for her, and that's just one kid.
One
you know what I'm
child,
saying?
exactly.
That's a lot. And I think sometimes because society, you can't put a dollar amount on being a homemaker or raising kids or whatever, you know what I'm saying, being a good cook or all these things that in the 50s were more the norm. I think it's really hard for women to give themselves a congratulations for even being that. So then they just run from it. It's like, nah, I want to make money because it's easy for me to tell that I'm doing a good job because they just give me more money. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I do think it's undervalued. We are in a place now where we all got to pitch in and do whatever we got to do. But I do think that some of the marriages that I've seen last the longest are a little bit more traditional in nature. Not to say that because the woman's working and the man's working, and they both, may or may not be making, the man may or may not be making more than his wife. But it's the role. Like, the man breaks the tie whenever there's a decision to be made. And my wife welcomes that sometimes. She's like, I don't like making decisions. You just make a decision. You know what I'm saying? She wants me to be a man like that. And I think that's fine. You know what I'm saying? I think that's okay. So I just don't want women to think that whatever they bring to the table is undervalued, because it's valued. You know
Absolutely.
what I'm saying? It's
absolutely valued. Man,
don't run from it.
We can't exist without women.
No.
There would be no people in the world literally if women did not exist. And plus, they have the most wanted thing that a man wants.
I'm saying.
So now, I appreciate you for coming on today, answering the 3 questions, summing up your whole thing that you just mentioned here in the end. I like your other saying, happy husband ain't no fussing, which I think is true, because I fuss a lot. I do it. It's over small, little petty stuff, but I just want you to hear me out, and then I'll be over it. Take a listen to the Brilliant Idiots podcast. Is there anything that, so people can find you on social media, whether it be, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, whatever?
I think it's all at Bret Mav on everything except for Facebook. Facebook's my name. It's at Bret Mav, 1 T, 2 V's on Twitter. I can't remember if it's on TikTok or not, but I believe it is. IG, same thing. I also have, I haven't been doing a good job of keeping it updated, but I also have at IG, The Wash Dad on IG. It's a little bit more catered towards parenting and that sort of thing, and the funny stuff. You know what I'm saying? I got a couple videos and stuff like that on there too. But it's just funny things, just parenting, family stuff.
You need to get back on it then. Hopefully this is an inspiration of
it is
you getting back on it.
It is.
All right, well, cool. Well, again, the purpose of this podcast of Men and Marriage System, married men to have a conversation to talk through a couple of questions, and then hopefully have other married men who are thinking about, getting married, divorce, separation, what have you, just a little bit of insight about how we can try to keep it going, because there's always going to be a give and take between the man and the woman, or your spouses. And again, happy spouse, happy house. You know what I'm saying? You can't be together living cohesively if one of you are out of sync with each other for too much time. So again, that's the reason for the podcast, to help inspire and help teach other brothers, men, about the falls, the highs and the lows of marriage. Because when I got married, they were just like, hey, are you sure? Marriage is hard work, but they never told you what all that was. So that's the purpose of this.
Yeah.
So, again, I appreciate you for coming on again and talking with me today, brother. And hopefully we'll have some more podcasts in the future, whether it be this one or a separate one on maybe yours, or something that we come up with, you know what I'm saying, later on down the line.
Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt. Appreciate you having me, man. I love you having this this forum for Black fathers to get together. But not just Black fathers, but fathers in general to get together to talk through it.
Absolutely.
Dope.
So this is Men in Marriage. See you next time.